if you want to model your career, don't try to model Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg, one of these billionaires, because that requires a tremendous amount of luck. What you should be modeling is the guy out there making $300,000 to $500,000 a year. Because you know what he did? He took a very predictable set of steps. He followed patterns in decision making that got him to a good outcome.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's show. My name is Jonathan Bannister, your host of Home Service Hustle, where we talk about marketing, mindset, and money. Today's guest is Seth Ure with GoodLeap Financial. Seth is a unique character, guys. This guy comes from 12 years of the HVAC and financial world. He is going to just drop bombs today on mindset, how to take control of your day, how to win the day, every single morning. He's going to talk about how he used to be an attorney in Hong Kong. He's done it all. He's seen it all. Him and his wife and his 5 kids, they live in Utah now. We're going to talk about all of that. You don't want to miss it. We're looking forward to talking to you soon. Let's go. All right, here we go. Seth, welcome. I appreciate you joining me today. We just wrapped up a webinar to my clients on the Cornerstone marketing side, and I'm happy to have you here as a guest on the podcast because we just talked about a lot about kind of what you do on a daily basis and who you're helping and financing side with GoodLeap Financing. But we're going to talk about a lot of things today. So let's kind of get started with, tell everybody where you live.
I live just north of Salt Lake City, Utah. So, it's really gorgeous here. You know, we moved here about a year and a half ago from Houston, and I was a little worried about the winter time, but it's so worth it getting out of the summertime of Houston. So it was definitely a good move, and it's gorgeous this time of year right now. I mean, it is just fall leaves are turning. There's like snow on the tops of the mountains. I can see the mountains like 10 minutes from my house.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's real nice.
Yeah, I told you to tell everybody where you live because I haven't been there, but I was just with you in California last week, and we talked about it, and we talked about how beautiful it is, and I want to get out to that part of the country. So
yeah. When you do, we'll have to talk first because I can point you in some real good directions. You know, there's some real pretty stuff to see. You know,
nice. All right, so let's talk about the show. We've Home Service Hustle, marketing, mindset, and money. So we're gonna hit and cover all of those topics today. So if we're gonna talk about marketing, give me some thoughts that you have on today's marketing with contractors, tying it in. I mean, we just got finished talking about financing on the podcast or on the webinar, and we're talking about how taking advantage of like the 0% no payments for 18 months compared to the 60-month that a lot of people do. So I think that's a marketing, technique there in itself, but you got to look at things like the fees to the dealer, right? So let's talk about marketing and kind of what your background or what your experience you have in the marketing world.
Yeah. I'm going to answer this question in a way that might feel a little like I'm not answering it. Then I'm going to come back around to it, which is to say that I always believe that the fish stinks from the head down. So your business is a manifestation of who you are, and whatever you're doing for marketing really has to be a reflection of what you believe and who you are and what you think your business should look like. And you need to find a way to communicate those beliefs and that culture down through the rest of your organization. So if you aren't communicating actively what your vision for the culture of the company is, don't be surprised when your techs and your, selling professionals and your internal office staff don't understand what the culture is. So it's got to be communicated. You've got to have a vision. And guess what? The vision is going to be reflective of what your own personal values are. You really can't get away from that. So I say that because there's a lot of owners who have a hard time buying in on financing. Some of them get it. A lot of them get it really quickly, but sometimes people have reluctancy. They feel like it might be some kind of a scam or a ripoff or something like that, or they feel like it's a worst case scenario type situation. And I would just challenge that and invite people to think, listen, all you're doing is making it easier for people to say yes to you. When people call you, they have a problem, and that is they got to fix their HVAC system. don't give them two problems, which is how am I going to pay for this? If you can solve one of those problems for them, the only problem they've got to solve is how do I fix my HVAC system? And it gets a lot easier. So I think in terms of marketing, you need to market to people in a way that they're going to understand, communicate with them, right? What do people care about? People care about, I need a low monthly payment, or I want some kind of a great promotion with no interest. So 18 months, no interest, no payment. That's a great, you should be talking about it, right? Like this is self-serving coming from a marketing guy or the financing guy, right? But you should be talking about your finance offerings, because if people don't know they can afford to buy your offerings, then they're not going to know that they can afford to buy your offerings. So you got to let people know, you got to destigmatize the financing. Hey, 80% of our people do this. So I just really think it's important to communicate what your offerings are, and your financing is part of your offering.
How did you get into this world? I think on the webinar is now, how many, 7 years?
I've been about almost a decade in HVAC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's I'm going to try to make this a short version of the story.
Okay.
Which is, I did a law degree and an MBA. So my professional training is I'm an attorney. Moved over to China for a year and practiced law over there. Did a master's degree in Chinese law, which I don't use at all, of course.
Now you're getting ready to ruin one of my subject matter.
I'm sorry,
Oh, come on. All right, so I won't ask the question, but now that you've already talked about China a little bit and you moving over there and being a lawyer, talk about that a little bit. How did that come to be? You went to law school here?
I did, yeah. So I served an LDS mission for my church in Hong Kong when I was 19. So I went over to Hong Kong for a couple of years, lived there for a couple of years, learned Cantonese, a little bit of Mandarin, and came home and I was like, man, I kind of want to use this. China's blowing up. I really want to go get into the international business world. And so finished undergrad, started going to law school, and realized, hey, I can actually cram in one more graduate degree without extending my time in school at all, like without adding another year. So I went through this big process to get it all approved, but then I went over there and did my master's degree while I was practicing law over there. And really it just came down to, it was just a dream. Like I really just wanted to go back and live back in mainland China, learn Mandarin, just have that experience. And so it was a dream that I had, and I just was like, I'm freaking doing this. And it was at great personal sacrifice, mostly to my wife and 2 children. But we moved back there, lived in a little apartment, and did it for a year. And then she decided, you know what, we are not doing this crap anymore. You can live anywhere you want to in the United States. And I thought that was a pretty broad set of constraints, pretty reasonable. So at that point, I was just like, all right, I guess I'm not pursuing this dream of international business law anymore. We're not going to be living in China for forever. So what do I want to do? I realized, I don't want to practice law. I want to go into business. So through a series of events, I ended up getting recruited by Goodman, the manufacturer, and stayed with them for a lot of reasons. It was during the Daiquin acquisition. So I'd been doing international mergers and acquisitions, and this was an international merger and acquisition. So I got recruited to kind of be on this team that was going to facilitate that integration. Did that for a year, did manufacturing, ended up in supply chain for a couple of years, ended up in marketing. So I was in marketing for a couple of years with Goodman. I was the senior product manager for all the outdoor split systems. So I was managing a lot of product lifecycle management, presenting at a lot of shows, talking to lots of contractors, and just kind of, we did competitive intelligence. You just get a really good bird's eye view when you work for a manufacturer in that marketing department about what the different programs, promotions are that you guys are doing, that everybody else is doing. You see how financing gets integrated and all that. You see how at a high level, they try to support the marketing efforts of the dealers. And from there, I got recruited into financing. And that was just a dumb luck, I guess you'd call it. Right place, right time, presenting at a lot of the same shows as some of the other a guy I've worked with now for a long time, Rob Knoll. And he brought me into it. He and a guy named Eric Howarth, who's now my boss again, surprisingly. So yeah, that's how that was the short version of that evolution.
Yeah. I just think it's super interesting that you were a lawyer practicing law in China, and then you decide, yeah, my wife's going to make me move back, and I don't want to practice law anymore. I'm just going to go into business, right? So, all right, random question time. So, what secret conspiracy would you like to start?
The trouble with all the conspiracies, they all keep getting to be proven true now. So
I know.
it's hard to find one that's too off the wall.
Oh man, I've been called conspiracy theorist so many times in the last, I don't know, 6 years, 5 years. It's like, it's only a conspiracy until the story breaks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep. I'm sure Snowden was a major conspiracy theorist until he released all the proof, right?
Yep, I think he was. I think I remember seeing the articles, like they were trying to tag him as conspiracy theorist. All right, so what kind of things do you do on a daily basis, Seth, or weekly basis for your mindset? What is it? I mean, obviously you're an extremely fit guy, so health and fitness is obviously part of your daily routine. What other kind of things do you do for your mental fitness?
I'll say, yeah, so I get up at 5:15 or so every morning, and I work out about an hour and a half. And that's, it's cheaper than therapy, let's say that. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, if I get up early when it's dark outside, by the time it gets light, I've already logged a huge hard workout and my blood's pumping. I just feel like I got a head start on the day. Like I know that on that one day, I had at least one win. So no matter how crappy that day turns out to be, I'm going to have at least one good win. So for me, that's a big part of establishing routine. I'm going to try to keep this a short answer because it's such a good question. It's a great question. I'll share this. I read a book called The Power of Full Engagement. And one of the major takeaways from that book was that we don't have limited time. We have limited energy. We have limited mental energy. It's not the time that you need to worry about. It's not time management. It's energy management, mental energy management. So anything you can do to reduce the amount of mental energy required to fulfill a required task in your life, you should do that. And that's the power of habit, right? So for me, when you first start working out, it requires all kinds of mental energy. But once you've been doing it, I've been doing it for 5 years now, it's no mental energy. My body naturally wakes up at 5:15, I climb up, I get my clothes on, I go to the gym. Like, it doesn't require any mental energy from me. So putting these building blocks in place that become habitual, that don't require you to think and exert a whole bunch of mental discipline to do them, I think is absolutely key to establishing a successful life. Like, you have to have routine. You got to do things you do, because the power of consistency over time cannot be overstated. I mean, everyone wants to go out and flash in the pan and just like bang, bang, bang. Yeah, look how cool I am. And have some like immediate overnight success. And that's not how life works for the vast majority of people. So if you're looking for success, you need to look at predictability. Like, you need to play the statistical odds. I once heard a guy say, if you want to model your career, don't try to model Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg, one of these billionaires, because that requires a tremendous amount of luck. What you should be modeling is the guy out there making $300,000 to $500,000 a year. Because you know what he did? He took a very predictable set of steps. He followed patterns in decision making that got him to a good outcome. So you need to establish building blocks in your life, and you need to pattern your decision making after people who have a recognized pattern of success, who, don't try to go out and think you're going to do something in a year. Everyone overestimates what they're going to accomplish in 1 year, and they underestimate what they can accomplish in 10 years. So you got to be patient. You have to take a long-term view and think, I'm running a marathon, not a sprint, and I'm building something that's going to last for the long term. So that's in business, that's in life. I had some experiences within the last couple of years that just really forced me to look at myself honestly and say, just look at all of the ways I've been dishonest with myself, right? Like, we all live life lies. And I think the first key, and this goes to therapy, right? But the first key is you've got to identify, what are my life lies? What are the things that I believe that are not true? And that requires really hard feedback from people that you know, people that you love. And so you need to solicit that feedback. But one of my deep commitments is to radical honesty with myself, radical honesty with others. It can be uncomfortable. I just think it's the best way to live your life. Like, for me, like, one of my core values is just integrity. I just say it like I believe it is. And it doesn't mean I'm always right, but it always means that when I say something, I'm saying something that I believe to be true. And so for me, that's one of the building blocks upon which I build my life, right? Like, radical honesty to whatever it is. So that's a long answer.
No, I love that. I'm writing the radical honesty down, because I love those two words. I was actually talking to my operations manager, who's the producer of the podcast as well, Mindy, and I was telling her recently, that there were a series of events that took place in my personal life over the last couple of years, and it resulted in radical honesty. Having to be radical, honest with myself, honest, with the other person that was involved, and it opened up doors and paths that I never knew existed. Like, there is something about full transparency and vulnerability that will completely change someone. And I think that goes in business. I think it goes into relationships, friendships, marriages. And it's hard. It's hard for people. And sometimes I don't even think it's the being honest. It's not that they're trying to be dishonest with the person they're communicating with. They're not even being honest with themselves, right? So if they're not being honest with themselves, how are they going to be honest with someone else about something?
Yeah.
And I think the only way that really happens is you've got to get to a level of vulnerability that you've never been at before. And some people just can't deal with it. But I'm telling you, I've lived it firsthand. And when you can really just let down all of your walls and fully expose yourself, and you're taking some big risk, right? Like you don't know, is this person going to use it against me? Is this ever going to come back and harm me? But when you can let all that stuff go and release that, it will do wonders for your life, and it'll set you free on a lot of different scales. So
yeah, I have chills. I could not agree more with what you're saying.
Yeah. All right. So another random question, Tom. I like to just mix it up a little bit. All right. Have you ever done something so unbelievably awesome, cool, embarrassing, but only to have no one around that saw it?
That is a really good question,
I'm full of good questions.
I can tell. I'll tell you a story that was not, it's more entertaining than it is radical or awesome, right? But
all right.
I think about it because it's so stupid and ridiculous, When I was in Hong Kong, I was working with one of my partners, right? And there was this old man out on the street, and his name was Chun Fai. And Chun Fai was probably 80-something years old, and he was a barber. He cut hair for a living. And I use the parentheses because he was not a barber at any stretch. That was how he tried to make his living, right? So one day we're like, let's go get haircuts from Chun Fai. We're like, okay, let's just do this, right? So we walk out. I'm like, all right, Chun Fai, let's go do a haircut. And he's like, oh, okay, follow me. So we follow him. And frankly, he looks like a homeless guy, okay? But it's it's more common in Hong Kong. It wasn't everybody. A lot of people look like homeless guys who were just, poor. So we go to Chun Fai to get our haircut, and he walks us under this bridge, and from behind a bush, he pulls out a folding chair and a piece of cardboard. And so he put the cardboard down, puts the chair on top of the cardboard. He's like, oh yeah, sit down. So we're like under a bridge, like in the middle of like a weird, like almost residential type area. We're like, all right. So I sit down, and he's got a little bag, and he pulls out, I don't know if you've ever seen them. There's these scissors that are essentially meant to replicate what a buzzer does, how it's like, but he squeezes them fast like this, and he makes the blades go like that. So it's a manual version of a buzzer. And he sat me down, he put the scissors bare against my bare skin, and went all the way up to like right here, just pure bald. And he did that the whole way around, just bald, all the way like this. I was like, oh boy, what a haircut. And then he takes out his thinning scissors, and my hair was pretty long at the time, and he just starts like thinning pieces. So by the time I had the end of the haircut, I was completely bald from right here, and the top of it varied in length from about 5 inches to about 1 inch, just in random pattern. He's like, all right, you're good. So I look up at my partner, I was like, you're doing this. We both came to get haircuts, and we're both getting haircuts. Sit down. And so he's like, all right. So he sat down and got the same haircut I got. and it was the most ridiculous haircut you could possibly imagine.
And why didn't you submit that as one of your photos for the show today?
I should have, I got that picture floating around somewhere. It was so stupid. I was like, why did we do this?
I mean, what did your wife say whenever you came home?
Oh, this was before I was married,
Oh, okay. Okay.
Married, she would have. This was my second time I lived in China. I was married. The first time I was.
Oh, okay.
She probably stopped me before I could do something like that,
Oh, yeah. That's a great story. I appreciate you sharing that. So, what are some of the major things that were different about life? Like, let's say once you were married, you had 2 kids. You have 5 kids now, right?
5 kids, yeah.
And so you were living in Hong Kong, had 2 kids, and what's the biggest difference in, life or raising a family or, having your family over in another country?
You're saying difference between here and there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, huge difference. And I can't comment on whether some of these would like transfer to if I had been living like in Belgium or something like that, but Hong Kong or China specifically, because we were in Beijing when I was with my 2 kids. It's a 1-child family. It's got the 1-child rule, so you can't have more than 1 kid. There are exceptions, right? Like if your parent was an only child, and the other parent was only child, then you can have 2 children. Or if you're a rich person, you can just pay the fine, which is what they all do. So if you're rich in China, you can just have 2 kids and pay your fine. So you can have as many as you want. But most people can just have the 1 kid. And so the entire family or entire society is structured around the model of grandma and grandpa live with you and they take care of your child. Mom and dad both work. And all of their kids, they put into a school from like 7 a.m. Monday morning till like 7 p.m. Friday night. It's totally common to have your child live at their school 5 days a week. So you go around and there's no kids anywhere. Like there's just no kids, there's no children. Unless you're walking by like a primary school or a nursery school or something like that, where they like probably, live. Got a fly around me. So that was really weird because my wife would take our kids out on walks and all the other kids would be like, stuck in some primary school somewhere. And we would attract an actual crowd. I mean, I'm a little dark, but my wife is like bright blonde and blue eyes, and my kids are all bright blonde, like towheads with blue eyes. And so in China, yeah, you literally create a traffic jam. We just be out on a walk as a family, and people be coming over and like touching my kid's hair, and oh my god, like by the time we left, I kid you not, my kids were probably getting their face and hair touched like 100 times a day at least. And so like the last month or 2 we were there, people would come over to like touch my kids, and my kids would start punching and kicking at them. And I'm like, I know to you it seems rude, like these are spoiled little American kids, but the truth is you're literally probably the 65th person today to come over and try and touch their face and play with their hair. And I don't blame them for being frustrated. Like, right. I'm not going to stop them from trying to kick you because I do the same thing, Yeah. So, yeah, just totally different culture, Yeah,
I go over. I've got a huge office over in the Philippines, so I go over there. I go over there twice a year up until COVID happened, and I tend to sometimes feel like my operations manager over there. She'll say like, "You're like a movie star here," like people start surrounding me, like taking pictures and stuff. Like they, I brought my wife with me 2 summers ago, and she's blonde hair, blue eyes, right? And just everybody's got dark hair and dark skin, and they're just like wanting to obsess and take pictures and stuff of her. I'm like, this is so weird.
I'll tell you a really funny story, and then we can go on to the next week, which is I have another brother who speaks Mandarin as well, and so I have a brother who speaks Thai. So they all came over to visit me when I was in Beijing, and we decided we're going to go out to the village, out the countryside, like 2-3 hours away to Hubei province. And so we take this bus out there, and this is like the countryside of China. So like there's no white people out there, right? Like it's only Chinese people. And we started walking through this little like village, and we walk over this little mall there. We're walking through the mall, and we notice there's this crowd of probably 8 to 12, like, I don't know, 14, 15-year-old girls who've been following us for like, I don't know, 25 minutes. So finally my brother's just like, hey, come on over. Let's take some pictures. We know what you want. And they're like, yeah, So they all come running over and take their pictures. And they all pull out their little notebooks and they all wanted autographs, So they wanted autographs. They wanted us to sign everything. I was like, keep that. It's going to be worth a lot of money someday.
Oh, man. So have you been back since you left?
No, I haven't actually. No, I want to take my kids back, because my older two kids sort of remember it, but my younger children, they've never been there,
Yeah.
My third child was born right after we got back. So.
How old are you?
How old am I now?
Yeah.
38.
Okay. And 5 kids. That's how do those ages, how do those steps go?
My oldest is 14. My youngest is 3. So 14, 12, 9, 7, 3.
Nice.
I guess almost 4. Yeah. So once we got started young, and once we had them, we're like, let's just get this thing done. However many we're going to have, I don't want to.
There's no point in stopping now, right?
Yeah, exactly. I already have no freedom. No, I can't lose more freedom having another one right now.
Oh, so is that on the table? Like maybe no more? All right.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So let's talk about what do you feel the biggest impact that you guys are making in the financial world? Like, what have you seen some of the other financial companies out there? I feel like I see different ones pop up and I see other ones disappear. I almost feel like a lot of them come back under different names and different partnerships and stuff. And it's just because I think you just take advantage of people for so long and do things so unethical with, you run these special programs, 12 months, no payment, no interest. And then what they're not telling you is when you miss a payment or on the 13th month that's not paid off, you pretty much just got yourself a brand new loan with some ridiculous rates, right? And people are frustrated. People are, aggravated with finance and whatever. And look, we just talked about this on the webinar. Finance is not going away. Financing is here to stay, and it's going to be more used than ever here in the near future because everything's going up. Inflation's out of control. The cost of goods is up all across the board, and our manufacturers are getting ready to jack up their prices. We've already had 5, 6, 7, 8 price increases over the last 2 years or so with most manufacturers, and I think we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg really when it comes to price increases. So it's got to make you feel good when you know that you're working for a company that is out there to truly trying to offer great financing at great rates, and you're not trying to take advantage of people and hit these balloon payments. So just kind of talk to the listeners right now of what that's been like for you in the financing world. I'm sure you've worked for other companies where you saw things not done the way that you would prefer. So talk through that a little bit.
Yeah, I think I'll just say competition is good for markets, right?
Yeah.
So you see it in every industry, in cell phones and airlines and everything. Southwest enters the airline industry and they start offering all these perks and benefits, and suddenly everybody else has to match them. So a rising tide raises all ships. And I feel like we're forcing everybody else to kind of reevaluate the programs and maybe eliminate some of those sort of gotcha clauses that they're doing because of some of the stuff we have. In fact, I was talking to a guy literally yesterday, and he said, hey, I don't know if you saw what these guys did, and I won't name them, but they're copying you. This thing that you did, that you introduced, they're now doing that too because they have to be competitive with you. So the net effect is that contractors wind up with a way better program and homeowners wind up with a way more fair program. So a few examples of that is, our 12-month, our no interest, no payment programs are also no accruals. And we're the only ones who does this. So give an example of that. If you put a customer, you offer them, hey, how about 12 months with no interest, no payments? Like, yeah, let's do that. With most programs, in fact, I would say pretty much all the other programs out there, if they go over that 12 months, they're going to go up to like a 26 to 28.99% interest rate, all the way back to day one on the full balance of the loan. And so they're going to get hit with some serious fees, and their new interest rate with their new term is going to have their monthly payment super high. So that's not good for a homeowner, and that happens a lot. With our program, if they hit the end of that 12 months and they haven't actually paid the full balance off, whatever the remaining balance is just going to turn into a 10-year loan at 11.5% interest. So a lot more fair to the homeowner. That's just one example. Another thing is that, let's say you take one of our standard installment loans, right? Let's say you put somebody into an 8.99% loan for 10 years. If they miss a payment, with a number of our competitors, if they miss a payment, it's going to go up to 26 or 28.99 back to day one, and they're going to get hit with a whole bunch of fees, and their monthly payment's going to jack up. It's going to skyrocket. With ours, if they miss a payment, they're going to keep their payment. They're going to keep their interest rate, right? So introducing things that are a lot more fair to the homeowner in terms of, no prepayment penalties, none of those issues. Like, it's going to function pretty much like an auto loan, which is kind of what your consumer is expecting when you tell them I have financing. They're not expecting to get a credit card in the mail. They're not expecting it put into some kind of a gotcha situation where they could really run into financial problems in the future. They're just expecting a really fair traditional installment loan. And that's really what we offer. So very fair, super affordable. So from the homeowner's perspective, I think it's a lot more fair than what they're usually going to get. From the contractor's perspective, there's a number of things that is really forcing everybody to make adjustments. One of the things is our rate sheet is just unbelievable. We have 8.99% loans with no fee to the contractor. So a no fee loan at 8.99%, well, that's just way better than a credit card, which is going to cost you 3% and is going to have an interest rate of, call it 17 to 28% to the homeowner. That's not good. And it's going to have a lower monthly payment. So giving somebody a lower monthly payment with a really fair and transparent loan offering that doesn't cost you anything is a really spectacular offering. So then making the process a lot easier, making sure contractors are getting paid on time. And then honestly, this might sound silly, but just providing a way higher level of support. Because with a lot of financing programs, it's really hard to get a hold of whoever it is, who your finance guy is, right? So just having people you can talk to, you can text, you can reach out to. We have usually 2 or 3 different layers of support. So if you don't get a hold of one, you call the next guy. If you don't get a hold of him, you call the next person. Makes a difference. Like, you want to be able to get a hold of people when you got a problem.
So I want to talk about let's talk about the dealer fees. What is common? How has that kind of changed over, let's say, the last 10 years? Because financing's gotten more and more popular over the years. And what should these contractors that are going to be listening to this podcast, like, what should they be looking at? Where should they be trying to price themselves, or trying to wash these fees? You talk about the 8.99% where there's no fee to them, and that's all the way down the price sheet, right? And when this podcast is dropped and edited, we'll make sure the price sheet is up here to show. But why would the contractor not want to push everybody into 8.99 where there's no fee to them? Or why would they want to start offering the lower interest rates to their customer and pay the fee? Help me understand that. And, obviously I want to educate the listeners.
Yeah. So I'm going to, this will be sort of a long answer, but it's actually, if you're paying attention, it'd be a really valuable answer because I've come to it over several years and thinking about this. So in terms of historically, the most popular loan in HVAC has been 0% for 60 months. Okay. So it's 0% to the homeowner. It's a 5-year term. It's on an equal payment. That's been pushed really hard by, if you're a trainer, a carrier, historically a contractor, you're going to get that from Wells Fargo, and they were doing promotions on that loan. So they just encourage everybody to just get used to offering 0% for 60 months. Okay. So that is historically been by far the most popular loan. It's not a loan that I recommend to any of my contractors other than when you're in a competitive situation. So if you're in a competitive bid situation, one of the other guys offering 0 for 60 and the homeowner is really adamant that that's the only way I'm doing it, you may want to use it under those circumstances. And we have those loans, and our rates are frankly
I don't promote it. So that's kind of where historically the industry has been.
Hey, hold on. Let's stop. Pause 1 second. Your robot voice came in there.
Oh, my robot voice again. Let's fix it.
Is it?
Hang on 1 second. Is it going again? Did my robo voice go away?
Yeah, it went away. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So
all right.
We'll edit this. So let's talk. Jump back in where you're talking about you guys offer 0% 60, but why you don't encourage it.
Yeah. So I'll say that we offer the 0% for 60 months at really great rates, but I don't ever encourage guys to use the loan because I think about it like this. All of your customers are either a cash customer or a payment customer. And so a cash customer needs a deal, right? They need 0% for some period of time. 12 to 18 months is typically enough to put a cash customer at ease. For a payment customer, they need a payment that's as close to $100 a month as possible. So when you think about that 0% for 60 months, your payment on that loan is typically going to be $250 to $280 a month. That's not optimal for your payment customer. It's about double what it should be. And then you think about it in terms of who your cash customer is. They need about a year and a half to pay this loan off. Well, you're giving them 5 years. That's not optimal. You're way overshooting the mark here. So you're way overshooting what you need to do with your cash customer. You're way undershooting what you need to do with your payment customer. And you're paying 20% in contractor fees to get there. So here's what I always tell guys. Listen, don't offer that loan. You're trying to be this middle ground, but you're actually satisfying nobody. What you need to do is you need to lead with a low monthly payment, and you need to follow up with the same as cash offering. And that's going to do a couple things for you. First of all, you're going to increase your close rate because you're actually giving the people what they actually need. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to increase your gross margin by a lot of money, because instead of paying 20% and adding that into your overhead for your financing fees, you're going to keep your pricing the same, but you're only going to need to cover about 5% in your contractor fees. And so that extra 15% goes straight to the bottom line. And when we're in a period of escalating prices, escalating equipment, you're not saving money anywhere else. Okay. So save money on your financing, take that overall financing cost down by 10, 15 points, and make a lot more money. And the question I always ask, and this will probably resonate with your customers, and we're talking about branding and establishing your brand equity and your brand premium in the market. Your brand premium is the difference that your customer is willing to pay between you and the next guy. So if they're willing to pay an extra $500 to work with you rather than your competitor, because they perceive your value in the market as being that much higher in terms of reputation and quality and all of that stuff, that's your brand premium. Well, if you're adding 20% to your pricing, then you're going to cost at least a couple $1,000s more than the next guy. So if someone actually says yes to you and pays you a couple $1,000s more, that is your brand premium in the marketplace. You're giving away your entire brand premium to the bank.
Have you ever tested this model out, Seth, as far as encouraging a contractor that is persistent on they have to have the 60 months and challenging them to, prove it?
Yeah, literally hundreds of times. We had one just a few weeks ago, a month ago maybe, where it was a big contractor that had multiple locations, and they said, we have to have the 0 for 60. It's what all of our guys used to selling with. And we said, let's just try an experiment. Pay them an extra 3% in commissions every time they use an 899.
Pay the sales guy. Okay.
Pay the sales guy. It makes an extra 3%, which is a 50% increase in what they were getting. They were getting 6, they're taking a 9. So you get 9% in commissions instead of 6% if you don't use the 0 for 60, right? And the 0 for 60 is costing this guy 18%. So it's a no-brainer for him. Even if he pays an extra 3% in commissions, he's still going to take home an extra 15%, right? He didn't adjust his pricing. So within the next 2 months, he had 0 for 60 loans.
Wow.
0. Every single one of his guys was like, oh my gosh, I can make 50% more by offering this loan. And what do you know? Their close rate didn't go down at all. So it works. People don't need 0 for 60 to close.
And what happens traditionally on the 0 for 60 if they miss a payment or something happens and they're like, well, the loan's not paid off at the end? Not with you guys. I mean, like
Yeah. It's gonna be very similar to the way, and every program's a little different. So I'm answering this generally. So if you have a program that's different from this, don't be like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. They're describing a lot of different programs here. So I'm generalizing. Typically, it's going to respond the same way it would if they had, let's say, a minimum monthly payment on like a 12, where that minimum payment, they miss a minimum payment, it's going to revert into a really high revert rate all the way back to day one. So that's typically how they behave.
Okay.
So it's just not a great loan for most people.
And do you find what are some of the pushbacks that you hear from maybe some of your old school contractors that they're not pushing financing as much as they should? Like they're only really offering financing like when the customer asked about financing, and I think that's like bonkers to me, because I'm like, that should be what you should be leading with, because everybody is offering financing for literally every single thing known to man. I mean, everybody likes to talk about Amazon and compare it, how the systems work. I was just talking to one of my clients today who has a office business furniture type of business, and he was trying to say, my website, I want people to be able to like kind of have the same experience that they do on Amazon. And I said, listen, I said, at the end of the day, I said, Amazon's got billions of dollars built into their website, I'm sure. I said, but they've changed the way everybody looks and sees and operates, because if I like, there's zero friction, right? Like I'm going to type something and I'm looking for something. I'm going to click it. It's going to go in my cart and literally it's going to be at my house. I mean, because me living here in Dallas, like we literally have 7 or 8 or more different Amazon locations around here in DFW. So like the stuff gets dropped off the next day, if not the same day. And so what do you tell people that are still dragging their feet about financing and not leading out the gate with it, knowing that everything today, even if it's an item like you're always talking about the cell phone, right? I mean, no one pays full price for their cell phone. It just doesn't happen, and it doesn't matter how much money you have. It's just you're going to have a cell phone monthly bill, so you might as well just have a few extra dollars into that bill, and not, because I think it comes down, like, people who have money, like, they think it's so stupid, right? Like, why am I about to pay $1,800 for this stupid device? So it's just one of those things. It's about principle, right? Like, if instead of having a $30 cell phone bill, I'm okay with having a $50 cell phone bill, because a few years back, cell phone bills were a lot more expensive than they were now. So it's not a big deal. Just bake it into the price. Yeah. So I just don't know why these contractors are not pushing and utilizing financing to sell. Right? Like, it should be a selling tool, in my opinion. So what words of advice can you give these people that are still on the fence and just not pushing it the way that it should be?
Yeah. So I'm gonna answer that by saying that I think that we're talking about 3 different types of contractors, right? So contractor number 1 is the guy who's like, all my customers pay cash. I don't need this, blah, 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 blah. Right. And I have a story around those guys, which is, Rob and I were out I think we're in New York or something like that. We went into this shop, and it was a pretty decent sized shop. It wasn't huge. It wasn't small. A couple of brothers ran it. They were both in their 50s or 60s or something like that. And we were talking about financing, and they were kind of giving us this standard smoke screen objections around, I just don't think we need it. I think all of our people can afford it, blah, 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 blah. And I said, hey, listen, would it help if I put together a paper leave behind? And just gave people 2 options. And it was paper. You didn't have to do anything at all except for give them this piece of paper, and they could pick for themselves what they want to do. Would that help? And both of them lit right up, and they were like, yeah, we'll do that. So all of their objections to financing were fake. What it really came down to is, I'm scared of the technology. I'm afraid I'm going to screw it up. I don't understand it. It's too complicated. But at the end of the day, I actually would like to be able to offer it. I just am not confident that I can offer it without screwing it up. Okay. So, and those guys started doing great with financing. Did they do it exactly the way that I would ideally or optimally want someone to offer financing? No, but who cares? Like, this was a value add for their business. They're doing the best they can with it. So I think the first group is people who resist financing because they're not confident that they have the ability to do it. not knowing that technology has come super far and it's just insanely easy to do now, right? Like this is not 10 years ago when you're filling out 30 pages of paperwork, and getting every last penny correct or else it gets sent back, right? We're not in those days anymore. This is a 2.5-minute application. They answer 8 questions, get an automatic approval. No paperwork to drag. I mean, it's insanely easy. So to those people, obviously, if they're listening, which they probably aren't, there's a real easy solution to show them how easy it is, and they get over it, right? I would say the bigger group of people are people who, if you ask them, do you have financing? Do you offer financing? They'll say, oh, yeah, we have it. We offer it. And I'll tell a different story around these people, right? This is like, and I can't remember if I told you this story or not, but I had a guy, this was a couple years ago, who called me. And I think it was I want to say Arkansas or Louisiana or something like that. And he called me up all pissed off, like, you guys suck. Your financing sucks, blah, blah, blah. I trained him like the month before. I was like, okay, time out. Tell me why you're pissed, And he said, well, I had 3 different people apply for financing and every one of them got declined. And I said, are you offering financing every single time? And he's like, well, no, just when people ask me for it. And I said something like, when they ask you, do you say something? Are they saying something like, if you can get me qualified for financing, I'll do this today? And he's like, yeah, how'd you know? It's like, well, dude, what are they telling you? They're telling you their credit is terrible and no one's ever going to approve them. So I think the second group is people who have the right idea. They want to offer financing. They don't trust the financing institutions. And by extension, they usually don't trust me either. And so they're looking at it and being like, I tried that and it sucked. The reality is they don't know how to offer correctly. So what they need to do, and this is what everybody needs to do, and to the point you just barely made was exactly right. You need to be talking about financing early and often, okay? You need to destigmatize financing. People think financing is for people who can't afford it, people who are financially responsible, all this stuff. Guess what? We're in an area of escalating prices. Your cheapest system within 5 years is going to be over $10,000 at least. It'll probably be over $12,000. So no one's writing you a check at that point in time. This is not for people who are irresponsible. This is for everybody. 80% of the people in this country have less than $5,000 in their bank account. So unless your average ticket is less than $5,000, which I don't even know how that would be possible with your equipment, then you're going to have to offer financing. So when you first get to the house, you need to be talking about it. Hey, I know you're wondering how much it's going to cost. I'm not going to know until we get in and look at your equipment, but I can tell you, we can do this for as little as $100 to $140 a month. So once I have a better idea of what it is, I'll give you an idea as to what the exact prices are. But that's a good estimate for you. Talk about financing. Say things like, hey, 85% of the people who I end up working with take us from a financing offering because the interest rates are amazing. It's super easy to pay off. You can pay it off whenever you want, and it gives you a really low monthly payment. So, most my people just do the financing offering because it helps the system kind of pays for itself anyway. If you say things like this, if you're just giving people permission to use financing and not feel stupid about it, don't make them ask. Tell them, offer them. Hey, almost everybody I work with does my financing because it's so good.
I think it's all about planting those seeds, right? Like, and you're educating them at the same time because a lot of people, they may have had a bad experience. They may have, financed something with another home service company. I mean, whether it was solar, a garage door, I mean, it could just be some big ticket item, and it may have been a bad financing experience, right? Like they may have missed a payment or something, and all of a sudden they got hit with all these, extra fees and stuff. I mean, you don't know the story, but having a solid financing partner and educating and discussing some of these options. But I mean, training is a big part of that. And I know you guys are huge on training. Like you will make the commitment and go out and work and train with these contractors. Why do you do that? Talk through that a little bit so that the listeners out here that are going to, be ready to start using you guys. What will you do when you come out with as far as the selling techs or the comfort consultants go?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, you asked, why do we do this? There's a little part of me that's like, I don't know why we do this.
Well, I mean, it's like, why wouldn't you do it? But then it's like, I guarantee you that some of these other guys,
nobody else does.
If you were to look at them and sign up with this financing company, because I see them all when I go to the dealer meetings and stuff, and I'm wondering, like, I want to go up to one of them next time and go, hey, I'm thinking about signing up with you. Will you come out and train my team next week? And they're probably just going to laugh at me and look at me like I got 6 heads or something. Like, well, no. Like, we'll send you some PDF documents and show you best practices, like, but I think in this space, there's nothing more important in the life of a contractor cycle of a business than training. If you are not training, you are not going to survive in this market. And I think training when it comes to financing is just something that really is not taking place.
Agree with that.
Obviously people, sales trainers like Jason Walker and people like that, they're working with these guys and, teaching them how to present financing at the kitchen table and stuff. But like the internal workings of the business, the owners, and, when they're doing their, weekly tech meetings and they're doing some role playing and stuff, they're role playing on selling IAQ equipment and stuff, but they're not even talking about how do I work that IAQ equipment into this financing pricing and telling them, well, it's only going to add an extra $9 or $12 to your bill, but it can eliminate, there's ones out there that just got certified that eliminates COVID. And, like if your kids have allergy problems, like these are the things that I just know that these selling techs and stuff are not super comfortable with bolting on an extra $3,000 or $4,000 onto a ticket when they should be more than ever right now with the COVID world that we're living in. They should be extremely happy to talk about it, to get those average tickets up, because when you've got the right finance partner, like you said, the 1%, and it's just easy to do the math and go, well, this is going to add an extra, $1,800 on it, and you can easily factor that into the price of the new system. Yeah, I mean,
I'll just echo everything you just said. In fact, sometimes I wonder why I have a job, because I'm like, this is not that complicated. This is pretty easy. But then you go out there in the world and you see that nobody's doing it and nobody's training it. And you're like, okay, well, I guess we're doing something unique, right? Like, so yeah, just training guys. You can have a great financing program, but if none of your guys know how to actually incorporate it into their sales process, it's not going to increase your sales by very much. Like, it's knowing how to take what you have, because your finance program will have certain things that are really useful in terms of closing more sales, right? So if you know that it's a soft credit pull, which ours is, we can do a full application, full approval, and soft credit pull. If you know that, now you have another tool in your arsenal. So when your guy's out there and you're getting ready to close, you say, hey, listen, we have a soft pull on our credit financing application. It literally takes 3 minutes. It might be worth it just to go through and do that. You get an instant approval, and that might give you an idea as to which one of these might be the best option for you. You want to go ahead and do that? It takes 3 minutes. There's no impact to your credit. If your guy knows that that's a tool that he's got, guess what? He can use it, and he's going to use that to close more sales. Because once they apply for financing with you, guess what? They're going to say yes to the job. It's 9 out of 10 times they'll do that. So knowing things like that, knowing how to destigmatize financing and bring it up early, knowing how to calculate what the payment's going to be off the top of your head. It's a 1% payment factor. So you say, hey, listen, this is a $12,500 job. I'm not going to say this is a $12,500 job. I'm going to say, hey, we can do this for as little as $125 a month and get this whole thing taken care of. And there's no prepayment penalties on any of that. You can pay it off whenever you want, but we just want to give you something that's easy and fits your monthly budget really well. Or we have 12 months, no interest, no payment. Which of those is going to fit your budget better? Knowing how to present options, knowing how to do it in a way that's not skeevy or doesn't feel like you're trying to slide something over on them. I'm just giving the options. I'm asking what you want. Okay. And if guys know how to take what their finance offering is, build it into their product offering in a way that's seamless, and then communicate it to the customer in a way that's just honest and open and fair. Hey, here's our options. Here's what we do. What do you want to do?
Yeah, I'm super curious. Have you talked to Jason Walker about this? I mean, obviously I know you guys are friends. I mean, is this something that he feels should be
absolutely
talked about? Like, really, I mean, if you're going there for an install lead, like, this is something I feel like you could lead with and start talking about early on in the conversation, especially because here's the thing: if there's no impact to the credit, right? Like, it takes 3 minutes. Like, let's go ahead and start establishing this while I'm, doing the presentation that I'm about to put on. But now, from both parties, I feel like, so to the homeowner, you've got them pre-approved. With you guys, it's a minimum of $20,000. So now they're sitting there and going, well, this system's definitely not going to be 20,000. So they may be thinking about the, home home filtration system that they've been looking at, or that one of their family members or somebody that's been raving about, but it's been a few $1,000s and they just didn't want to make that investment, but might as well go ahead and take care of it all at one time while they're already going to be in there taking out my old system. And I may need to get the ductwork replaced or cleaned or something like that, because I don't want to put in a brand new system and have dirty ducts, right? And from the comfort consultant side, now he's sitting there, he's fully armed with knowing that they're already pre-approved. It's minimum of $20,000. So his presentation of what he's going to offer them could also be completely different, right? Like he can start very high and feel that he's going to close, that 18-SEER, multi-stage unit like every single time, because he doesn't have to worry about, are they going to pay cash? Is this going to be too expensive? What's this conversation going to be like? No, like they're sitting there already pre-approved and they don't care because it did not affect their credit whatsoever.
Yeah. I will say Jason definitely gets this, and he's way out in front of, most people, a lot of people, in terms of his selling process and incorporating financing. He totally gets it, and he trains great on it. And so, we've had a lot of conversations. We connect really well. I'll say this, to your point about leading with financing, which is there's a couple different options that I always tell guys you can do. I say, hey, listen, when you first get to the job, you're going to talk about anything other than the job, right? Like you take 10 minutes just to build that relationship. But a great segue into talking about the job is, hey, I know you're wondering how much it's going to cost, because that's the first question your customer has. I know you're wondering how much it's going to cost. I'm not going to be able to tell you that until I get a better look at your equipment. Because guess what? As soon as you say the price, you're done building value. Once you say the price, you're done building value, conversation's over. So you cannot drop that price, the actual hardline price, until you get to the end of the conversation. You've built all your value. So you say, I know you want how much it's going to cost. I'm not going to know the answer to that until I get a good look at your equipment. But I can tell you we can do this for between 100 to 140 bucks a month. I can get you a really exact number once I get a good look at your equipment. I just answered his question. How much is it going to cost? 100 to 140 dollars a month. I'm not giving away all of my entire price line, so I'm not done building value, but I can at least calm him down and satisfy him that, okay, guy's not hiding the ball on me. I get it. That's a great segue from we're just small talking into let's talk about your equipment. And I'm going to answer your question right off the bat. I know you wonder how much it's going to cost. I don't know. It's 100 to 140 bucks a month. Boom. Super easy. You're preempting a lot of things. I'll say another one. We're just giving them away, guys. You can, pay me later, right? Another one is we're in an era where people want to do research, right? Like people want to do research. They want the 2-call close is becoming a lot more common. It's a lot harder to close somebody the first time you go out. So you can either accept a 2-call close, or you can try to preempt that with a pre-flight call. And one of the ways you preempt that with a pre-flight call is every single appointment you have for the following day, or you train your dispatch person to do this. You call them up, say, hey, listen, here's my name. My name is Seth. I'm going to be coming out to your house tomorrow. Just want to let you know I've been doing this for X number of years. I'm married. I've got kids and everything like that. So I always try to treat people right, whatever your spiel is. I want to let you know we have some great financing options. I don't know what your financial situation is, but I can tell you probably 85% of the people I work with end up doing some financing. And one of the services we offer is we can do a pre-qualification. It takes literally 3 minutes. And that way we can tell you exactly what you qualified for financing before we ever come out there. I'm going to send you some documents and stuff to your email, and you're going to send them information that is on your website. So guess what all their research is going to do? It's going to drive organic search results to your website, because now that's more people spending more time on your website, researching more and more and more about the equipment, trying to get their questions answered. So I'm sending you to my website every time with educational links that are going to take you straight to my website. And so there's a lot of people every single time spending all this time on my website, and that's going to drive me up in the Google search results. But the other thing that's going to do is that, A, I know they're qualifying for financing before I get out there. B, I just preempted that concern of I need to think about it, or I need to do some research, because I'm going to get out there and I'm going to ask the question right away. Hey, was that helpful? Was that useful? Do you get a chance to read any of that stuff? Were there any questions that came up? Because I know that's a lot of information. We're going to go through some of that as I talk to you today, but I just want to make sure if you have any questions up front, I want to answer those. Because if you're like me, you like to spend some time doing some of your own research before you make a decision. All right, do you feel pretty satisfied that we've answered any questions that you have? Great. Guess what they can't say anymore? I need some time to do some research. I just want to Google around a little bit. No, I gave you that opportunity. You just barely told me you did it. So pre-flight call, great way to preempt a 2-call close. It's a great way to incorporate financing when you first get their segue. There's just a lot of opportunities for people to increase their close ratio.
Yep. Well, we are to the end of our time, but obviously you and I could talk about some of this shit for days. So we will definitely have you back. Any last words you want to say for the contractor out there who's got multiple financing options, but not really using any of them all that great, but wants to grow their business, right? What's some tips that you'll give them?
Well, I would say contact me, sure, at Goodly Craft, and let me see if we get hurt. I would also say, just in terms of tips, it's like, look, you got to know what you're evaluating. If you don't have any criteria by which you're measuring each of these different programs against each other, you're going to have a really hard time picking one and knowing that you picked the right one. So, I mean, price, process, people, and approvals. How do they measure up in those things? Because guess what? Money's fungible. You don't care who gives your contractors money or your homeowners money, just as long as somebody's giving them money. But process friction will kill sales. So, got to be easy and nobody's got to do it. And fees are a dead weight loss. So, if you can reduce fees, all things being equal, you should.
I love it. Seth, I appreciate the time. I'll maybe prep you next time on some of my random questions so you can spit them out to me. Dude, it was great. I appreciate it, and we'll have you back in the future.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, man.